Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
I'm a 34-year-old woman, and I got married to my long-term boyfriend, 35, a few years ago. We came across each other during a seminar and clicked so well. He seemed to be decent, polite, and soft-spoken. We were introduced by a mutual friend and spent a great time talking about our common interests. We added each other on Facebook, and that was when we started talking daily. In no time, we grew so close that we would share every little detail of our day and were able to build trust. I introduced him to my parents just when we started dating because I was sure that we were going to stay together for a lifetime. My parents are very supportive and have never left my side in any situation. I'm their only kid, and that has given me extra attention and pampering. My relationship with my parents is very strong, and there's nothing I have not shared with them. My parents were very glad to see my partner and loved my choice. They told us that they were always there and we could trust them with everything. I moved in with my husband just after a few weeks, and we'd started dating, and I loved every moment with him. I asked my husband several times that I wanted to see his family, but he was reluctant. I knew his family consisted of his dad and a younger daughter, but he would always postpone and would say that we would go to see them some other time. Things got serious between us, and we had decided to get married. I told my husband that it was high time to make me see his parents, and we decided to visit them on the weekend. We went to his parents' house, and his dad seemed very glad to see us. His sister was also very excited to meet me. We had tea with them, and my husband announced that we had planned to get married and were there to deliver the good news. His dad congratulated us and told us that he was very happy for us. We had a great time chit-chatting and then came back. My husband told me that his dad had called him later and told him that our marriage was not going to work, as my parents belonged to the upper class and I was raised in luxury, which meant that I could not adjust with him. His dad also told him that as I was earning far more than him, it would make me able to control the relationship and ultimately his life. My partner had convinced me that I was not that spoilt brat that he had imagined, and he was sure about me. The wedding preparations began, and we made sure that everything was perfect. We sometimes would take my husband's family along with us, just so that they might not feel left out. His dad would make weird faces and would object if he thought about something expensive. One evening, as we returned from shopping, my father-in-law told us that we should not spend that much money on weddings and should save up for our upcoming life. I told him that we had already saved up much, and all these expenditures were being made by my parents as they wanted my wedding to be perfect in every way. This shocked my father-in-law, and he asked my husband how he could let his in-laws pay for everything, and how could his self-respect bear that. My husband told him that it was not a big deal, and my parents were doing that out of love. We got married, and I swear we would be the happiest couple on earth. We were already on leave from our offices and had decided to rejoin after our honeymoon. My dad had arranged our honeymoon, and we were all set to leave when my father-in-law asked my husband to ditch the honeymoon and focus on his work. My husband told him that we were on leave and our work would not be affected, but my father-in-law was not ready to listen and told him that he did not spend so much on his education that he would ignore his profession just because he had got married. My husband ignored this, and we went on our honeymoon. As we came back from our trip, we invited my husband's family to stay with us for a week or so. We had moved into an apartment gifted by my dad and could not wait for my in-laws, as I expected my father-in-law to be happy seeing us in our new place. As they arrived, and my husband announced that the apartment was gifted by my dad, he was not happy at all. He had told my husband that my parents were doing all that to make an impression and would kick him out if he ever tried to go opposite to my decisions. My father-in-law told my husband that my family was trying to buy him. I was so upset to know that, as I have never tried to make my husband that way. My father-in-law and sister-in-law had been staying with us for only a few days when my father-in-law asked my husband if he could invite his friends over for dinner. My husband told him that he did not need to take permission and could invite anyone he wanted to. My father-in-law told my husband that he was concerned that it might disturb me, as it was my apartment that they had already raided. I told my father-in-law that he should consider it as his place, and I have never felt that way. My father-in-law has invited his friends over, and, to be honest, I have no problem with it. My in-laws are staying only for a few more days, and I know my father-in-law will never stay for longer, but the way he feels about me and my parents worries me a lot. My husband has never felt that way, nor do I want him to feel like he's being fed by his in-laws, but it may create problems for us later in life because it seems like my father-in-law is trying to inject his thoughts into my husband's mind. I discussed this with my husband, and he is as chill as he has always been. I have told my father-in-law that I would be helping him with preparing the dinner, and he could tell me what he wanted. I'm trying my best to clear my image. My father-in-law had invited his friends over for dinner, and I spent my whole evening helping my father-in-law in preparing the dinner. His friends arrived, and they got busy in their chit-chat while I, with my sister-in-law's help, arranged the dinner table. Father-in-law and his friends came to the dining table and started having their dinner. I was busy with something in the kitchen when I heard my name being taken by my father-in-law. I tried to listen to what my father-in-law was telling his friends about me, and I heard that he had told them that I was a stay-at-home wife. His friends were then talking about how lavishly I was spending the hard-earned money of my father-in-law's son. They also told him that the apartment was too much for a couple and everything looked expensive, which meant that my husband was being looted by me. I could not believe my ears. My father-in-law had told them that the apartment had been rented by his son, and he was the one who was working hard while I was busy spending his hard-earned money. I couldn't take it anymore. I went to my desk and took out my pay slips, which clearly showed that I was earning 3 times more than my husband. I took them, went to the dining table, and slammed the slips on the table. I told my father-in-law's friends that I was at a better pay rank and earned far more than that friend's son. I also told them that as they were very concerned about the apartment and the way it was furnished, it was a wedding gift from my parents. Father-in-law's friends didn't speak a word. I told them to enjoy their dinner, and I went to my room. As my father-in-law's friends left, he came to talk to me and told me that I had insulted him and his son in front of his friends. I very calmly told him that he had started it and how he could lie to his friends and then let them talk about me. He told me that it was not as bad as I had done because no one cares if a woman earns or not, but when people know that a man earns less or depends on a woman, no one respects him. I told him that it was just his filthy mind that produces such creepy thoughts. He told me that he would talk to his son and would tell him how I had insulted him. My husband returned home, and my father-in-law told him the whole story. He asked me if my father-in-law was right, and I told him that yes, he was, as I had to defend myself because he was trying to damage my reputation. My father-in-law once again gave the same explanation, and I was pissed. I didn't listen to anyone and went to my room. My husband came after me and told me that I could have tried to ignore them as they were just chit-chatting and would not even remember anything the next day. I told him that his dad had had a problem since the first day, and he simply could not digest that my family was well off. My husband asked if I could apologize to my father-in-law and end this topic here, which shocked me. I told my husband that he had to talk to his dad and make him understand that it was okay if a woman earned more than her husband, and it was also okay if in-laws could financially help their son-in-law. I told him that he should talk to his dad because my father-in-law would take everything to his ego. My husband told me that he had tried so many times but had failed. I told him that if he was not going to take a stand and tell his dad how things were in actuality, I would have to reconsider my decision to marry him. NTA, there was no problem with the OP. She was the only kid of her parents and was entitled to everything that belonged to them. There was nothing wrong with OP's parents supporting her and spending like that on her because they could afford it, and that was it. I do not think that OP wanted to keep an upper hand or was doing that to put an impression, but her father-in-law was thinking too much. I hope OP's husband supports her through this. NTA, OP's father-in-law has serious problems. After all, he seemed a narcissist and egocentric because he could not see anyone else being better and living a better lifestyle. If his son had no problem with his wife's money and the money spent by his in-laws, who was he to judge? He could simply keep calm and enjoy, but he wanted to mess everything up. Plus, his mindset sucks.
Next story.
I've been in therapy for 10 years, and I'm diagnosed with PTSD. My dog is task-trained to help me during panic attacks. My roommate, Janet, 24, is a close friend of 6 years, and my roomie, 8 months ago, started going on casual dates with Brad, 25. Brad eats my food without asking and damages several items of mine. After he damaged a favorite item, I asked Janet if he could not use it when he came over. She asked to see the damage, about how I knew it was Brad. I showed her and said that he was just the last person to use it, and so I knew. She agreed Brad should not use it and apologized. He tried to take my dog somewhere. Didn't mention where. I started to feel scared to leave my dog at home and asked Janet if they could please not do that. She got defensive and insisted Brad is always nice to my dog. I tried to de-escalate, saying that it was not about him specifically. Brad started showing up unannounced at night. Each time I asked Janet if she was expecting anyone. When she said that she wasn't, I peeked through the door and saw that it was him. At this point, I'm uncomfortable. One morning, I saw that he left the item he damaged out while he was in the bathroom. Janet was there, so I asked, "Is he using that?" And she responded, "Oh, but I'm with him." I said, "I don't want to ask for something just for him to look for loopholes." She started crying. Brad came out, saw that she was crying, and started yelling. "What is it now? You always have a problem, and I'm sick of it." I started shaking, but said, "Please, don't talk to me that way. You are a guest in our home." He kept yelling, "I'm sick and tired of you making this such a hostile environment." I went back to my room and had a panic attack. Brad kept yelling. Then he, Janet, started laughing. I told Janet that Brad's behavior concerned me. She told me that I was overreacting. Brad was sticking up for her because I was being ridiculous. I asked her for a 20-minute heads up before he came over because he made me feel scared. This would give me time to grab my things and either go to my room or go to my boyfriend's. She said that was doable and promised to do that. Multiple times, Janet and Brad have surprised me at night while I took my dog out. Each time, I have a massive panic attack. The first time, Brad kept walking closer to me after I asked him to stop. He started yelling because he just wanted to clear the air and apologize. After the most recent surprise, my fingers, face, and legs froze. I fell down into the grass and was unable to move for an hour. Janet and I have not spoken since. AITA? Update with answers to common questions. Thank you to everyone who posted kind, helpful comments. Some people in my life who I've talked to about this, like my parents, suggest that I might just be overreacting because I have PTSD. I have been in therapy for 10 years and have made so much progress, but Brad has undone quite a bit of that. Before he started seeing Janet, I would typically go for 6 or more months without having a panic attack. Now, I have them almost every time he comes here. I'm still seeing a therapist who is working with me and my dog on coping techniques. My therapist is aware of all this. We live in a house that my parents own, bought as an investment, and they charge us rent as our landlords. I have told my parents about everything, and while they say Brad sucks, they also say that there's nothing I can really do about it, since Janet isn't breaking the lease. I told my parents I would look into moving out, and they got upset, but didn't say anything about Janet. Because my parents own the house, they are giving me really discounted rent, which is the only way I can live in my city. I feel stuck. After your helpful suggestions, I looked into restraining orders. Brad's actions don't meet the requirements in my state, county. Janet and I have agreed we should not live together again. The lease is up in 4 months. I'm concerned for her safety as well. She has started coming home crying more frequently after they go out together, and I imagine that he's probably treating her much worse than he's treating me. I'm upset with the way that Janet has handled this situation, but I also know how abusers can brainwash people into saying and acting out of character. I've tried to explain that I care for her well-being and that I am here for her. Most of the time, when he's not around, she's kind and thoughtful. NTA, but you need to get out of there. Break the lease if you can. You don't sign up for Brad to be here all the time. Break things and not even pay and replace them. Find a safer environment for your own mental well-being.
Next story.
So I, 18-year-old female, had to surgically remove my eye a short while ago, and I am still wearing an eye patch. I worked up the courage to go to the prom, and I was super scared of being bullied by this one boy, Mike, who has always been a dick to me. Well, it happened. He constantly came over and made really mean comments about my eye, and also related to my boyfriend, Jacob. He wasn't there because of caretaker responsibilities. Last thing he said was, mockingly, "Aw, did Jacob's big nose poke your eye out?" After that, I just lost it and I started crying. The guidance counselor took me to her office and tried to calm me down. They also brought my friends there for a few minutes to avoid escalation. I demanded that Mike be removed from the event because he was being a bully. My counselor tried calling his parents but couldn't reach them, and told me that since Mike is not 18 yet, they cannot remove him from the event without an adult. She then told me that since I'm 18, if I don't feel comfortable staying there with him, I was free to leave, and she would even call me an Uber if I wanted to. I was furious that she suggested that I leave to make the bully more comfortable, while I did nothing wrong and Mike is the one who should be forced to leave. The no leaving alone if below 18 rule also makes no sense because Mike's house is across the street. She then gave me the "I don't make the rules" crap, and I told her that if she doesn't have what it takes to protect her students, she is a failure at her job and should quit in favor of someone who can. I talked about this with my boyfriend, and while I did have a few choice words for Mike, he told me that while he understands my frustration and my response at the moment, he thinks the counselor was not at fault. I'm very open to apologizing to her if I see that other objective people also believe the same thing my boyfriend does. So, AITA? NTA, because he could have been removed to the counselor's office and supervised there until parents could have been reached. And the counselor is a major AH for "I don't make the rules" crap. Counselor had multiple options that were not siding against the victim and were still within safety rules. They were either unaware of them or unwilling to use them. Either way, you were right. They shouldn't be in that job.